Page 13, "O Come Little Children." This is a Christmas piece, done a lot of, okay. In this lesson, they're introducing you to rests. More musical symbols to learn now, and know from now on, never, never, never. A rest is like a note, except instead of playing the note, making sound, you're quiet. You play a rest by being quiet. I usually say, play the rest. Well, that means be quiet. And they have the symbols for them. Every note has a rest that goes along with it. So we've had whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and eighth notes so far. Well, we have rests that go along with that, and that's what they're doing here. They're throwing 4 rests at you. All right, we'll deal with them. We'll start with the whole rest. It is a box. You see it at the bottom there. On their list, they've got the 8th rest first. I'm going to start at the bottom of that list and go up. So I'm doing the whole rest first. That's the box. It's a box. In the half rest, it's a box. It's an identical box to the whole rest. The 2 boxes are exactly alike. The difference is where they are on the staff. They're in the same space, but the whole rest is below the line. It hangs on the line, and the half rest is above the line. And that's the only difference between them. It gets fun figuring them out sometimes. How do you remember which is which? Well, I do it, since I play by gravity and weight, I do it thinking the whole rest is worth more beats, so it's heavier, it hangs below. And the half rest is lighter, so it sits up above it. And that's how I remember which one is it. So the whole rest is below it, it's heavy, and the half rest is lighter, it's above. Okay. Then above that is that weird looking squiggly thing, and that is a quarter rest. Now I want to warn you, music has evolved, music notation has evolved, and quarter rests have not always looked like this. Some people say the squiggly line kind of looks like a bird diving down, depending on which way you're going. It helps to have an imagination if you're going to study music. I'll come back to the other quarter rest in a minute. And then the top one is 8th rest, and that looks like it's just, it's got a stem and it's got a little flag curling off. But it is important that that flag curling off goes to the left. And that's why I'm talking about the old symbol for quarter rest used to look like the 8th rest today, except the flag went to the right. So in 8th rest, the flag goes to the left. And in a quarter rest, the flag went to the right. And if you happen to be reading music printed 100 years or more ago, and it's out there, you might run across these quarter rest symbols. That's why I pointed out. Today's music, the current music, they don't use them. It's a bit confusing. So they just use the diving bird thing as the quarter rest. Just be aware if you're hand drawing these symbols, and you hand draw an 8th rest, make sure the stem goes to the left. As far as counting them, it's exactly the same as the notes. They get the same value as a note. You're just quiet as all. You see, in music, in music theory, according to the time signature, every measure, remember the measure is the distance between these measure lines or bar lines, every measure or every bar has to have a certain number of beats, according to the time signature. That's the top number in the time signature. In 4/4 time, every measure's got to have 4 counts in it. That's just the way it is. Well, if you're quiet part of that time, you have to represent the time, the beat, the count, and that's what rests are for. Now you look at "O Come Little Children" and you see the first measure there has 1/4 note in it, and you think, well, so much for 4 beats. But again, that's a pickup measure, and if you look at the last measure of the piece, the second line, that's a dotted half note, that gets 3 counts. And what they do is they take the last measure and they split it, and they take the end of that measure and stick it at the top. So it is beat 4 of the last measure. So really every measure's got 4 counts in it. Now if you look at the end of the first line here, you have a half note and a quarter rest. Well, that's 3 counts. Well, again, this is a way they can split a measure between lines, and I don't agree with the way they printed it here. I would not have done it this way, but they did it, so let's understand it. At the end of the first line, there's no vertical bar. See, they didn't finish the measure. The measure is still going. So the next line, that quarter note, that is beat 4 of the last measure of the first line. I would have gone ahead and just put the quarter notes at the end of the first line. And just, But again, I'm just getting you to understand the different ways some of these publishers publish this music. But every measure's got the same as 4 counts in it, and we're good to go. Now, let's talk this children thing over. It's 2 lines long, treble and bass clef, 4/4 time signature. We got quarter notes and half notes and dotted half notes. There's no eighth notes here. Okay. I'll take it one hand at a time because the music's getting a little more involved and the hands are starting to do more different stuff. Right hand, you're starting here and here. That puts the hand here. And the hand is not moving around, so you don't need any of these other finger numbers. Please don't be reading finger numbers. Read the notes. And by now, you should know these note names in the music. If not, I encourage you to go back to the beginning and drill yourself very carefully on just go through all of them. Play it and say it, the drill. Play the note and say the name of it. Forget the rhythm, just play the note and say the name of it. Drill yourself until the names of these notes are just second nature to you. We have a lot more notes to learn, so you want to get these down really well if you can. Anyway, we're here. We're coming in on beat 4, so it's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You get the idea? Now in the last measure, it's 1, 2, 3. I come up on beat 3. You see a beat lasts a certain amount of time, and when that beat is over, the next beat starts, unless it's the end of a piece. So a beat starts when the beat before it ends. That makes sense? The one beat and then another beat and then another beat. You're thinking, well, duh. Well, it becomes really important with res. In that last measure, the first line, I have a half note. It's 2 counts. 1, 2, and on beat 3, the half note ends. That's because the rest begins on beat 3. 1, 2, rest. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. My point is, a lot of people won't do that. They'll cut the half note short because they figure they're done. 1, 2, 3. They don't hold it out a full 2 counts. And my point is, we want to be very careful to make sure we're holding these notes out the right length. I don't always, but I try. So here, hold it out until beat 3. 1, 2, 3. You come up on beat 3. And then on beat 4 is the next line. It's like at the end of the piece. Dotted half note here. 1, 2, 3. And beat 4 is at the beginning. Now we don't say 4 at the end because beat 4 is at the beginning. We're not going back to the beginning unless there's a repeat sign. Don't think we've had repeat signs yet. Stick around. My point is that the last measure is 3 counts. 1, 2, 3. And it would come up on beat 4, which isn't there, which is why I say off in the play with me's. To hold it out the full length. 1, 2, 3, off. Off represents the next beat that's not there. But if I don't, you won't hold that last note out 3 counts. You'll hold it 1, 2, 3, and you'll lift up on 3 or whatever. Well, that's only holding it down 2 counts. If I lift up on 3, that's like the end of the first line. That's 2 counts. So you got to hold it down the full 3 counts. 1, 2, 3, off, and then off. So be very careful on these that you hold these notes down the full length. See, when we start introducing rest, that brings this into play. Now the left hand. Well, the rhythm in the left hand is the same. The notes are going to be different. You're down here again, and you don't need any other finger numbers. Read the notes. 1, 2. Like so. And again, I'm using weight to push the notes down. So I'm simply transferring weight from one finger to the other. I'm walking on the piano with the fingers. Here, I'm transferring weight down and then up. And I exaggerate it so you can see it better, but it's actually a very little motion because you don't need, it's like walking, you don't need to sway a lot when you walk. Well, most people don't. But it's a very slight motion. Yeah. But I am transferring weight from finger to finger. Yeah. You get used to that. You can find that you can transfer weight very quickly from any finger to any finger or combinations of fingers. You can use multiple fingers and it works really well. I'm amazed at how well it works, but it does. Anyway, I keep getting sidetracked. Let's put the hands together now. We're here. And when I first put the hands together, I'm interested in which fingers are working together. It's here. So it's here, and then here. And then here. And then here, and here, and here. So I'm just concentrating on which fingers are working together. And then once I have that, I check the rhythm. Because sometimes I leave the rhythm out. If it's really tricky, I'm just focusing on the notes. And if I've done that, then I go back and try and add the rhythm, and I get rid of the hesitations. So it's a steady beat throughout. And then I can add the expression or the articulation. And here they have phrasing. Connect it. Well, it's easy here to lift up between the phrases because you have a rest. You have to lift up. So that's built in. So here we're just going to connect everything and lift up for the rest. Once I do that, okay, then I do the dynamics. MF is mezzo forte, sort of loud, medium loud, yeah. That's the melody, which is the right hand. You're going to have to decide how loud that is because I don't know your situation or where you are. Just for your situation in the room you're in and the piano you're on, what is sort of loud to you? This left hand is background. Keep it in the background. Light. So I'm sort of heavy here and I'm light here. And in the second line, it's P for piano. That's soft. That's the melody. That's what the left hand was doing. Now the left hand's got to go way super soft. How soft can you get? And if you happen to have a piano with a soft pedal, don't use it. At least not yet. Just don't. You got to learn to do this with the hands. How light or soft can you play with the hands? It's important. And once we have that, then I think about the speed. Well, now they're mixing them up. They got an andante and they got a moderato. That's two different speeds. Andante is kind of a leisure pace. It's not slow, it's just a leisure pace. Moderato's somewhere in the middle. So now we're leisurely somewhere in the middle. Just, if you were going to sing it, it's just a gentle piece. So don't copy me, please. You experiment with it and try it out. Now, since we've started adding pickup measures or incomplete measures, I want to also introduce you to what's known as natural accents. Now, for piano, an accent is just play the note a little louder. See, a piano can't do a true accent. Other instruments, a bowed instrument or a wind instrument, those instruments, they can do a true accent. Piano can't. All we can do is play the note just a little louder. Well, there are natural accents in music, and this is part of interpreting music. We got to get into interpreting. How do you interpret the music? Because the written music only says so much. It gives you a guide, how loud to play it or how fast to play it or connecting the slurs and all that. It gives you a guide, but it's up to you to take it a step further and turn it into music. You see a lot of students that go through these books, especially if they're by themselves, and they say, okay, I got these notes and rhythms, let's go on. And when they do that, they've cheated themselves out of most of what music is actually about. They're missing the point. Well, you can have a computer do it if that's all you just notes and rhythms correct. Good enough. Let's go. Well, in interpreting, you're adding feeling to it. Expression. The expression marks, that's a guide to how to interpret it. But you're adding more than that. And in interpretation, the way I approach, because everybody's got their own approach, the way I approach interpretation is the first thing I think about are the natural accents. And when you have a pickup measure, they become really important. Because without the natural accent, people who hear you play this will think the first beat you play is the first beat of the measure. That is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what they're going to feel. Well, you put in the natural accent. That is an accent. I've already explained what that is. But it happens naturally. You don't force it. Now, you may have to force it at first to feel it. But eventually, you just want to feel these. And if you're dancing to music, you're probably dancing to the natural accents because you're feeling the music. You're moving to the beats. But you don't move to every single beat. You move to certain beats. Well, these are the more important beats, the stronger beats, the natural accents. Each time signature has its own, and sometimes signatures have multiples. It's just fun. 4/4 time. The strongest natural accent there is in any time signature is the first beat of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You just feel it. Bump. I'm exaggerating, of course, but the point is the first beat of the measure is what it is. So here it's like to hear. 1, 2, 3. We feel these. I exaggerated it so you could hear it, but the point is we're feeling it. And then in 4/4 time, there's also another natural accent on beat 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Except 3 isn't as strong as 1. 1 is the strongest, and then this other is 1, 2, 3. 4. You feel these. 1. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. That's the natural accents. And it's really, really super duper important when you're having pickup measures because it has to feel like to hear, not here we are. Yeah, here we are. No, it's to hear. Make sure you put that in. We'll talk more about interpretation as we go through more lessons, but try and do this much at least, the natural accents. Let's play this together very slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do the dynamics. I do louds and softs here. We're not performing it. We're just checking notes and rhythms. So I'll give us 3 counts because we come in on beat 4. Let's just play it together very slowly. 1, ready, go. 1, 2. 1, 2. 2. 2, rest.